I look back on those years and I'm really glad I had them, but I'm glad it didn't go on.
Yeah.
Because I think I would have just, something would have blown up.
Well, something kind of did.
Rather boringly and in a cliched fashion. In my early 40s, I had a midlife crisis. I think it was after New Year, 1995, 96. I got on the first plane to a destination on the Indian Ocean. I worked my way up the east coast of Africa, really from South Mozambique, up to Mombasa. I can clearly date my love affair with Africa back to that trip. Yeah, so my first resolution would be the same as every year, which would be to
learn the piano.
Learn to listen better and to be more patient. Now, so my same resolution is to be a better partner.
Stop biting my fingernails.
That's good.
Showers.
Yeah, start having showers.
When I was 5, my dad had an affair and left home. He says this walk has nothing to do with resolving the past. I disagree.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just going for a little walk. So can you tell me which is the way to Dondo?
Dondo. Okay, do you have a transport?
No, I'm walking.
Walking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Step.
Step. I've just asked the receptionist the way, and I've got a kind of vague idea. So, of course, I may add a few kilometres wandering around Beira before I actually get out of town.
When he told me about the walk, I thought I would just be filming blisters and sunsets. It didn't exactly turn out that way.
The walk starts where we are, which is in Beira, in Mozambique. And I'm going to attempt to walk to Djibouti on the Red Sea. It'll be between 5,000 and 6,000 kilometres.
I know Dad to be an incredibly kind and loving man. But how could such a kind man leave his wife with 4 kids under the age of 8, in search of his own happiness? Why was he retracing the very trip he did while he tore his family apart?
I would happily acknowledge that this is quite a selfish thing to be doing. I'm taking myself away from friends and family and loved ones for 6 months. I've got to a point in my life where I want to see if it's not time for a change. I suppose it's not just about learning about Africa, it's about learning a bit about myself, perhaps.
Louis, don't crash.
Robert, do you play a musical instrument?
I muddle around on a musical instrument, not him.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
ever seen Louis when he hasn't been eating?
Dad's affair ripped the heart out of our family. Yet in 20 years, I'd barely spoken to him about it. When he left, I blamed myself. I believed that my struggles at school were pushing him away. I have always admired Dad, but until now, I had never addressed why he left.
I'm looking forward to getting to Malawi. Probably be a bit cooler, although I don't know why I think that.
It is day 3 in Malawi. We are in a place called Mzuzu. We made a 4-hour drive, a 10-hour drive. Looking forward to going and meeting Rob. It's been a while since I've seen him.
Cool. Yeah, ready whenever you are.
7 weeks in, do you think you've got your routine now? You've always been a man that likes a routine.
My routine's pretty simple. I'm up at 4. I'm on the road by 4:45. Simply so that I can get at least 20, if not 25 kilometres done before it gets too hot to walk. I find walking a curiously relaxing thing to do. I mean, you do go into kind of almost a sort of physical and mental neutral. I think it only happens when you've been walking for a number of consecutive days and you really get into a kind of rhythm.
Are you regretting your decision to walk in the hottest time of the year in the hottest place in the world?
I probably hadn't appreciated how energy-sapping and uncomfortable it can be to walk in temperatures approaching 50 and plus. One of the reasons for doing this walk was to try and sort of think about the next phase of my life. Perhaps it's because I've still got months ahead of me. I haven't thought much about that. That's the $64,000 question. Why did I fall in love with Africa? I mean, I suppose, maybe if I'd gone, somewhere else at that critical juncture in my life, when everything was falling apart, it might have been very different.
"3 months after abandoning the family for another woman, he left us again for a dangerous expedition to climb Mount Vincent, the highest peak in Antarctica. I remember sobbing into my mum's lap as he walked out the front door. Was this walk Dad escaping again?
I don't spend a huge amount of time kind of remembering the past or thinking about the past. I suppose I'd rather look forward than look backwards. I haven't got any air to clear. I mean, I carry a huge amount of guilt with me. And I've dealt with that guilt. I've had a lot of therapy, and I think, and I'm sort of comfortable with the guilt now, but it'll be with me forever. Because what happened, happened. And I can't do naught about it.
Sure you don't want to talk about it?
Well, I mean, basically my marriage was breaking down, and my wife and I were separating. My children were still young, and I'll probably start crying now. And it was a bad time in my life.
I told Dad that he didn't need to carry that guilt on my behalf.
I know, it does. It's well, happy Christmas. Have a good morning, boss. Okay, I'm glad I've got my dark glasses on. Oh.
As the walk progressed, digging more into Mum and Dad's relationship, I took back that forgiveness. I started to question whether he actually took responsibility for the hurt that he had caused.
I'm feeling good. Walking across the bed of Lake Natron. Absolutely spectacular. Saw one herder and a couple of goats, and then a young man wearing an Arsenal shirt walking 3 goats somewhere down the lake, goodness only knows where. There's probably 42 in here. It's a bit like a cauldron.
I spent the better part of, I guess, 6 weeks in Maasai country with the Maasai, and they're great walkers, but they don't really walk for recreation. I've met a bunch of old Maasais on a bench, and when I said I was walking for reasons of philosophy, they seem to completely understand that. So sometimes now my answer is, I'm walking for reasons of philosophy. I'm buying fruit and veg for the next 2 weeks, really, as we go through the Saguta Valley, where there will be nothing to be found at all. Not a blade of grass, and certainly not a tomato shop. So I need lots of food. Do you want to come with me? Nice. Okay, great. Santa Sana. As I was coming out of the town, I spotted 4 camels and their drivers. They were to be my lifeline going up the Saguta Valley and Lake Turkana, the remotest part of my journey. Hi, darling.
Hello, hello.
Good to see you. Hey, welcome to the burning sands of Lake Turkana.
This is a bit full on, isn't it?
I warned you.
Dad had always worked hard. But with the birth of my youngest brother Ivo, he decided to leave work to spend more time with his family. It was then he began his affair. In the Kenyan desert, I plucked up the courage to ask questions I'd spent most of my life avoiding.
There's always been something, there's always been a little, I don't know, it's something you can't quite put your finger on between you and Mum that always means your personalities are going to clash. It was never going to work.
I mean, yes, I think that there is something in our chemistry that doesn't quite work right. I don't believe that any relationship is perfect. I mean, I think all relationships have things that don't work. And then you have a choice. You either deal with them and you learn to live with them and you acknowledge them, or you just ignore them.
I would say with me, there's a big issue. I definitely used to just push anything that was bothering me, I'd just push aside and think, you don't talk about it, it's not an issue.
But I also have to say, I do think that's a very strong family characteristic.
What effect do you think it had on all of us?
I don't know, that's the hardest question of all to answer. I mean, because, you know, with you guys, you were obviously all changing all of the time. I mean, all the child psychologists and everything that we went to say is that, you know, children are incredibly resilient. The most important thing is that their parents are happy, and if you can't be happy together, then it's better to be, you know, all that kind of stuff. Quite a lot of which I think is guff.
Yeah, me too. I think children are sponges and taking it.
I think they are, no, but I do think children are very resilient.
So do you think in a way it was almost a positive that you and Mum split when we were all so young?
No, I don't. Definitely not.
Have you been walking? Have you thought about Becky much?
I do think about her every now and again.
Do you blame her for your split with Mum?
No, not at all. Absolutely not at all. You know, in some ways, she was the biggest victim of all.
Really? You go out with a man that's got 4 kids and a wife, innit? I think you can cry victim when it doesn't work,
Well,
if I'm being honest.
I don't know. I think it's much more complicated than that. I think if you fall in love with somebody, think you're gonna spend the rest of your life with them, and then, you know, they leave you. That's quite tough.
When you say she was the biggest victim of it all, more of a victim than Mum?
Well, only in the sense that, you know, when a relationship breaks down, it's both parties' responsibilities. And then they get back together again, and somebody gets hurt in the middle. It's not a justification for what happened, but I actually think Mum gained quite a lot. I think she grew up and became actually a much stronger person. It would have been much better if Mum and I had dealt with our situation together and either sorted it out or not.
Yeah, I definitely can't disagree with that.
It made me so angry to hear Dad talking about Becky's feelings like this, completely ignoring what Mum was going through at the time. The way Dad clung to his own narrative, always finding something else to blame, gave me a good insight into how much denial he was in.
So, we are nearing the end of Sibley National Park. The sun's only just risen. I'm finding it tough today. We've done 10 solid days walking, and it's our last day of walking. We've got 2 more days in Illiret, and my legs have given in, and we're only on 5% of the walk. A lot of admiration for that old man.
Is it going to rain in Ethiopia? Because I would really like to get rid of this. Sleeping bag, I definitely need. Mosquito net, I definitely need. Excess knickers, home socks, definitely don't need those. Dirty washing, that's a present for you. Soil water purifier, definitely keep. Tracker, keep.
Are you looking forward to Ethiopia?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Ethiopia because it's terra incognita. Yeah, of all the countries, it's the one I know least, so I have absolutely no idea really kind of what's going to happen. But I've got the end in sight.
Have you allowed yourself to think of the end?
Yeah, I have begun to think about the end of it now, but I've begun to think about coming home, which is quite, which I'm sort of getting, I don't want to get too excited about it because I don't want to not enjoy the next 6 or 7 weeks. Eye drops.
Always an emotional moment saying goodbye. I love you, love you, love you. Oh. And I'll see you in 3.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay,
Keep safe.
great.
It's amazing. I still hate saying goodbye to him.
I've definitely gone through Ethiopia more quickly than I went through Kenya, for sure. Though this has been one of the most amazing experiences of my life, I'm looking forward to the end of it. I mean, it's been a long time.
I rejoined Dad almost 6 weeks later, with the end of the walk in sight. It still angered me that he claimed Becky was the victim.
I've sometimes thought she was just a kind of pawn in the game, but I think there's a bit more to it than that.
What piece are you?
Well, I guess I'm the king and Mum's the queen.
Maybe the other way around. You can move the whole board at once. You can only move one space.
Yeah, that's why I think Mum's the queen.
You knew it was unhappiness, not just stress and lack of sleep.
I didn't know it was unhappiness at all. I didn't really know what it was at all. I mean, those 10 years were absolutely fucking manic.
Yeah.
And I was probably a really unpleasant person to be around for quite a lot of the time. But I was really stressed.
Yeah.
All the time. You know, I look back on those years and I'm really glad I had them, but I'm glad it didn't go on, because I think I would have just, something would have blown up.
Well, something kind of did. And were there obvious things in your relationship that weren't working?
Oh, God, I mean, there are lots of sort of incidents, but they all sound rather trivial.
Was that right from the beginning, or?
Well, there are lots of things about me and my behaviour and my characteristics that are pretty upsetting for my partner, but I don't think I loved her in the way that she wanted to be and needed to be loved.
The biggest emotion I feel when I think about it is confusion.
Confusion caused by...
I just don't really get it at all. Because the man I know wouldn't have been able to do what you did 20 years ago. You know, whatever circumstance, it would have been a sit down and talk about it rather than running away from dealing with it.
Well, ironically, what happened in that period, I think, had quite a big effect on me and made me a better person, because I learned a lot. It wasn't a good way necessarily to learn, it was a very painful way to learn. But it wasn't completely without its benefits. Yeah, the struggle and the challenge and the grind and the pain are a real part of life. If my marriage had survived, then I would probably be the happiest man on earth.
I was gradually sensing a change in Dad. So that night, I played him back some of our chats. In the morning, his reaction caught me off guard.
In having this opportunity to talk to you about what happened, you know, I now see things very differently. It's rather sort of pathetic, you know, that I've had 20 years to kind of understand and create a narrative around what happened. And it took me listening to myself to realize that I got some pretty important things wrong. It was only me that did what I did. I mean, it was me that it was me that jumped ship, it was me that left, it was me that fell in love, and that had nothing to do with anybody else. That was completely my responsibility and my fault. There's such inadequate words. But I'm sorry. Whew.
When I set out to film Dad's epic walk, I was unaware that buried deep within was the trauma of feeling abandoned as a child. While my love and understanding of my crazy father grew with each step we took together, it was his recognition of the suffering that he caused that opened up the possibility of forgiveness. For when we hold no sense of injustice, we are free.